Imagine walking through a dense forest at dusk, when the sun hides behind the trees and everything around you is plunged into twilight. There is a strange, almost frightening silence, as if the world had stopped to observe your next decision. The air feels heavy, and each step echoes like a distant memory of something you feel you have lost, but cannot name. It is at this moment, between light and shadow, that many of us experience a silent death, not of the body, but of the soul. Have you ever felt as if you are alive, but inside, a part of you is asleep, forgotten, or even dead? Is there a desire, talent, or truth of yours that has been buried beneath routines, fears, or the expectations of others? Jung warned us about this invisible death, a shadow that hangs over all of us. But are we ready to face it? Or would we rather pretend that this emptiness does not exist? Where are you watching from? Tell us in the comments below. Nowadays, we walk together through crowds, yet paradoxically, we've never been so distant from one another. The silent emptiness I described earlier doesn't belong only to me or to you. It reveals itself in rushed glances on the streets, in shallow conversations between colleagues, in the weariness hidden beneath automatic smiles. We live in a world that values productivity, outward success, the appearance of constant happiness, and so, little by little, we drift away from what is most intimate and true within us. Technology surrounds us, connects us in real time, but how often is that connection just another form of distraction? How many times, looking at a screen, do we feel an even greater void opening up inside our chest? The excess of stimuli, information, expectations, makes most of us live on autopilot, numbing deep emotions, ignoring that inner voice that asks for something more. It's not an individual weakness, nor a personal failing. It's a collective dilemma that crosses generations and cultures, the difficulty of looking within, of accepting our shadows, of embracing our imperfect humanity. Deep down, we all carry this feeling that we have lost something essential along the way, a spark of authenticity, a sense of belonging, a truth about who we really are. And even without realizing it, there is a silent yearning pulsing within each of us. A desire to awaken from numbness, to remember what was forgotten, to rediscover a sleeping part of our soul. Perhaps this is the most urgent invitation of our times, the call to awaken and seek meaning beyond the masks and noise. If this feeling resonates with you, take a moment to reflect on how you've been feeling lately. Share in the comments if this search also echoes within you. And if you'd like to continue this journey of self-discovery, subscribe to the channel. Together, we can explore ways to reclaim what we have lost. Some imagine Carl Jung as someone who only studied the mind, but in reality, he himself traversed dense inner forests and labyrinths of silence. There were nights when he felt the weight of an unbearable emptiness, and days when, behind everyday routines, he sensed a forgotten presence, a voice within crying out to be heard. Jung realized that within each of us exists a vast universe, made up of parts we hide, of unspoken pains, of stifled talents. He called this dark space the shadow. It is not something bad, but the part we leave behind to fit into the world, to be accepted, to survive. When we feel empty, lost, or disconnected, it is not just because the world is too noisy. It is because our shadow is speaking. It whispers that we have forgotten who we are and that we are trying to fit into someone else's story. Discomfort, restlessness, the feeling of not belonging, all are signs that something within us wants to awaken, step out of numbness, breathe again. Jung saw life as an invitation to this encounter with what was abandoned. And often, this call does not come only as a thought or a dream. It comes in the form of people. Someone crosses our path and suddenly stirs something dormant within us, a conversation, a look, a gesture, anything can be a mirror. These encounters are not mere coincidences. They are mechanisms of our own unconscious, trying to remind us of what we have forgotten in ourselves. Some people appear precisely to provoke us, challenge us, and, above all, to awaken that which still pulses and waits to be recognized in our essence. They are catalysts in our healing process, not by chance, but by a profound necessity of the soul. Vulnerability. We almost always mistake it for weakness, as if allowing ourselves to be fully seen were an invitation to suffering. But in truth, vulnerability is a silent key that unlocks hidden doors within ourselves. When I allow myself to feel, when I let pain, fear, and doubt surface without censorship, I realize that I am not falling apart, but revealing myself. Each emotional layer I shed, every defense I abandon, is like peeling away an old shell that kept me from breathing deeply. Yes, it is uncomfortable. The urge to go back, to gather the pieces and put the armor on again, comes strong. But in this discomfort, there is a rare kind of freedom. By exposing my imperfections and accepting my shadows, something new happens. I find a space for connection where before there was only loneliness. I discover that what I most hid from myself and the world was precisely what made me human, and that my vulnerability was actually my strength. Transformation does not happen all at once, nor is it a single heroic act. It's a patient process, as if I were leaving a cocoon, feeling the chill of the world for the first time, but also the promise of a new flight. Each time I choose not to hide, I deepen my contact with myself and those around me. Vulnerability ceases to be a risk and becomes a conscious path, walked on purpose. And as I move forward, I realize that a new stage is approaching. A greater challenge lurks, asking of me an even deeper surrender. This time, however, I am not so afraid. I have learned to trust the process, to trust myself. I am ready to take the next step, with renewed courage and an open heart for whatever comes. And then, as if the universe were answering the silent call of my heart, something, or someone, appears. It's not a triumphant entrance, nor an obvious revelation. Sometimes it's just a look that pierces through my defenses, a word spoken at the exact right moment, or a gesture so simple that it's almost unsettling. But there is something in that presence, something that shakes the foundations of what I believe myself to be. The awakener does not arrive bringing comfort, it brings unease, like a cold wind that stirs heavy curtains and makes the dust dance in the light. Suddenly, everything that was dormant within me begins to stir. I feel fear, not the kind that paralyzes, but the kind that reveals. I feel anger, resistance, a desire to run away. I deny, I argue with myself, I wish to retreat to the safe haven of what I already know. But this encounter, this situation, is a relentless mirror, reflecting my shadows, my unspoken desires, my carefully hidden vulnerabilities. I see myself naked before myself, exposed, without masks, without excuses. The presence of the awakener challenges me to abandon old beliefs, to let go of control, to face what I have always avoided. It's not a gentle invitation, it's almost a demand. I realize I can no longer pretend that I don't see, don't feel, or am not. The discomfort grows, it is the price of truth. And then, in that moment of maximum tension, the inevitable choice emerges, to retreat to the protection of my old walls, or to cross through the portal opened by this unease. To keep denying my own light and shadow, or to allow this catalyst to become the impulse for the deepest journey of my life. It is here that everything changes, or repeats itself. It's like standing before a broken mirror, where each fragment reveals a forgotten piece of myself. I feel the urge to retreat, to hide behind the excuses I've repeated my whole life. Fear throbs in my chest, whispering that maybe I'm not strong enough to face what is hidden behind these locked doors. The old voices echo, "You are not worthy, you will fail, no one can see what you're hiding." For so long, I tried to silence this dark side, as if it were a storm that could be avoided by closing the windows. But now, the storm is inside. There is nowhere to run. With every attempt to deny it, the shadow only grows, taking on more intense forms, paralyzing anxiety, corrosive guilt, isolating shame. It's suffocating, like sinking into dark waters with no air or direction. I think about retreating, about putting on the everyday masks again, pretending that everything is fine. But restlessness doesn't allow it. I feel the weight of the past, traumas that were never faced, desires that were repressed until they turned into pain. I wonder if I am capable of passing through this place. Is there light on the other side? Can I be accepted, even with all these wounds? But deep down, I realize that the darkness is not an enemy, it's a lost part of me, waiting to be acknowledged. I am not here to fight against it, but to embrace it. The discomfort is the price of truth. And in this moment, I make the decision, I will no longer run away. I will cross this threshold, accepting my shadows as part of my journey. From here, true healing begins. It's strange how everything changes when we finally stop running away. What once was a threatening shadow now seems like just a forgotten part of me, waiting for a gesture of acceptance. Gradually, I realize that there is no dividing line. My darkness and my light are made of the same substance, intertwined in every experience, every choice, every fear I once tried to bury. I let go of the need to fight what I feel. Instead, I take a step inside myself, and, with kindness, I reach out to what I have always rejected. It's as if I am embracing a frightened child, lost in the corners of my being, asking only to be heard. There is no more room for guilt or shame. I begin to see that my flaws, my impulses, my secret desires, all that I once deemed unforgivable, can now be welcomed. And in this gesture of compassion, something changes. The weight I carried for so long dissolves, giving way to a quiet serenity, almost silent, but profoundly real. I recognize that I no longer need to be perfect. I recognize that my imperfections are, in fact, bridges that connect me to others. They are the cracks that let the light in. By accepting my shadow, I realize that it is not a mistake to be corrected, but fuel to create, to grow, and to love more deeply. For the first time, I feel that I am not fragmented. I am whole. And this new sense of wholeness brings me a calm I hardly knew before. Now, with my heart lighter and my mind clearer, I know I am ready to move forward. Not to erase my shadow, but to walk with it, transforming it into strength, creativity, and true freedom. The journey continues, but this time, I move on in peace with myself. It's strange to realize that rebirth doesn't happen with a bang, but with a whisper. After diving into the abyss, there is a different silence, almost sweet. Now, when I look back, I see the ruins of who I once was, broken pieces of old identities, masks that fell away quietly. The emptiness that once screamed now rests, transformed into fertile ground. It's as if a harsh winter has passed and, from the frozen earth, something new sprouts, shy, but full of life. The pain still exists, but it no longer sets the pace for my steps. The scars, once a source of shame, are now maps that guide me. I feel the presence of my shadow, but not as a threat. It's my silent reminder of humanity, my source of creativity and compassion. The fear that once paralyzed me has lost its hold. In its place, there is a quiet steadiness, the clarity of someone who has crossed the night and knows that light, however faint, always returns. The sense of strangeness gives way to a deep acceptance. I realize I will never stop growing, will always find parts of myself that I don't yet know. But now, I walk lightly, without the burden of wanting to be perfect. My strength doesn't come from hardness, but from flexibility, from the courage to shed old defenses. The past doesn't define me, but propels me forward. This rebirth is not an ending, but a renewed beginning. I carry with me the lessons of psychological death, the humility to fall, the courage to rise, and the power to carry on. I am ready for whatever comes, because at last I trust who I have become, whole, imperfect, and true. The moment has arrived. Before me, the horizon stretches out like a road not yet traveled, shrouded in mist and silences. The old ground, with its familiar roots of fear and old habits, rests behind me, not as a prison anymore, but as a witness to my journey. I feel the weight of each scar, every truth discovered, pulsing in my chest as a vivid reminder. Transformation requires courage, and courage does not mean the absence of fear, but rather moving through it with an open heart. The air feels suspended, as if the world is waiting for my next step. The voices of doubt still whisper, trying to pull me back into the shelter of what I've always known. But now, I recognize these voices. They are not enemies, but parts of the path, signs that something precious is being left behind. The desire to move forward, to inhabit this new fertile space that I have cultivated within myself, speaks louder. I feel the chill of the unknown, but also a spark of excitement, as if every particle of uncertainty is also a promise of discovery. There are no guarantees, only choices. And today, I choose to cross the threshold. I don't deny my shadows, nor do I run from what scares me. I carry everything with me, the newly discovered light, the embraced imperfections, the compassion I have learned to nourish within myself. This is not a leap to the end, but the first step of a new beginning, a continuous crossing, where each day will be an invitation to grow, to make mistakes, to start over. I accept the risk, I accept the discomfort, I accept the imperfect beauty of what I have become. The past no longer confines me, it propels me. I move forward, whole, attentive, open. The unknown awaits, and for the first time, I am ready to welcome it. The day breaks, and for the first time, I feel the sun touch my skin without the filter of old insecurities. The air feels lighter, as if each breath brings not just oxygen, but also an invitation to live in wholeness. I no longer walk with the weight of doubts, but with the lightness of someone who has accepted their scars as part of their own story. I look back and see the abyss I crossed, that emptiness that once frightened me is now fertile ground where new possibilities blossom. The shadow I once tried to bury now walks at my side, silent and wise, reminding me that strength and fragility coexist. My purpose is not a distant goal, but a quiet presence that pulses in every gesture, in every word. I have discovered that to live fully does not require perfection, but authenticity. The masks have fallen, and with them, the need to please or to run from who I am has gone. Now, I am whole, like the bird who, after years in an invisible cage, recognizes the vastness of the sky and launches itself, without fear, beyond the horizon. The peace I feel is not the absence of challenges, but the serene confidence that I can withstand any storm. I no longer define myself by what I lost or feared, but by what I choose to be each new day. This new beginning is not an ending, but the dawn of a life guided by purpose and compassion. I move forward, recognizing my imperfect humanity and welcoming the unknown as an old friend. The circle closes, but the journey now consists of steady steps and open eyes for all that is yet to come.